discussing infertility, treatments, and different types of births such as C-sections or natural births. If that is something that might be a trigger to you, feel free to see the title at the beginning, and we will always list what it's about. So if that's something that you are uncomfortable with, feel free to exit and join us at another episode. I hope you're doing well today, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Sit back and enjoy this special story from one of our friends. I'm really excited to see you today, and I'm really excited for you to share your journey, because I feel like it's something that a lot of mamas would really enjoy to hear. So I would just want you to tell us about your journey to becoming a mom, and just tell us how that was.
Yeah, sure. So, me and Joseph, we got married back in 2013. I was 20. He had turned 21 the day before we got married. So we were pretty young. We initially wanted to wait like a year to try to have children. Like, we wanted to enjoy each other as a married couple. But it wasn't even 3 weeks later. We were like, to be fun, let's have a baby. So we started at that point trying to have a baby. Did not come easily for us whatsoever. I had stopped the birth control. Then we were like, okay, we're going to get started on this. And then I had issues I wasn't having a period. So I thought that it was just the birth control at first. Like, maybe it's like my body's trying to rid the birth control. So I had looked into some stuff about that, and I had read somewhere like it could be 3 months. So of course, like 3 months after stopping my birth control, I had a period. So I was like really excited, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I read about. We're gonna, like, things are gonna go smoothly from here. It did not. So fast forward, it had been like several months, close to a year, at this point. And, that was actually probably my last period, up to this point. Like, I didn't have another period for at least 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went to, an OBGYN and talked to them about like what was going on, that we were trying to have a baby. They really just kind of shoved pills at me, like, here, take this medicine, it'll help you have a period. And then you'll be good. So I was taking this medicine to like force my body to have a period and menstruate.
How did you feel at that time? Do you feel like that was really what you wanted to do, or more of like you were just doing their suggestions?
I felt at that time, I felt like that was what I had to do, because I knew, like, I obviously wasn't getting pregnant if I wasn't having any periods.
Right.
So I just thought that that was a step in the right direction. I remember nobody really explained anything to me about like what that would look like, how that medicine would make you feel. Still to this day, sometimes I still take that same medicine because I still have issues with having a period. So that medicine makes you crampy constantly. It just kind of intensifies, and like here and there, but it's like a constant cramp, like a period cramp. So it's not the best, but at that point, I thought that was what I had to do. So several months later, still nothing. I remember talking to the doctor, and they were like, oh, well, we're going to try you on Clomid at this point. Like, it was a certain month. I don't remember what month it was, maybe October or something. They said that we would try Clomid, which is a fertility drug, if I wasn't pregnant by that month.
Okay.
So that month came around. I was really excited about trying something different. And I called the doctor, was like, pregnancy test was negative. So ready to get started on something else. And they were like, oh, well, the doctor doesn't want to start you on that right now. So I was kind of like devastated, but I was also very young and didn't really, I just thought that was kind of normal for them to be like, oh, well, we've decided like we're going to try this a little bit longer and then do something different. So I just thought that was kind of normal. But I was really upset about it because I had been looking forward to, if this didn't work, then I was going to get to this month and start the Clomid.
Right.
So I was really upset about it, but I kind of went along with it and was like,
Mhm.
okay. Well, then I had been looking into some stuff about, trying to figure out why I wasn't getting pregnant. It had been over a year at this point. Um, and so I actually reached out to that doctor and the doctor's nurse, and I suggested that I might have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. And I remember the nurse's response to me was just really snotty. Like,
Mhm.
she was like, well, did the doctor check you for or do blood work? And I was like, well, no. And she was like, well, then she didn't check you for that. And I was like, well, I can come in, we can schedule that. I can come in one day this week, next week, let's schedule it because I want to know what's wrong. Um, and she was like, oh, well, we'll just do that whenever you come back for your next yearly pap smear. And at that point, it was like 6 months away. So I was like, no, I was like, that's not okay. Like, I felt really ignored, I guess, at that
Right.
point.
And you know your body
Because,
better than anyone else, so
right.
you wanted to have that
And
voice. Hmm.
yeah, so I just felt really ignored. I felt kind of pushed aside because I was young. And I kind of felt like that was the mindset that people had was, oh, well, you're young, it's going to happen, just,
Right.
no rush, whatever. So I felt like they weren't taking me seriously. So at that point, I was like, I'm done with this doctor's office. I used to tell people that I would never go back to that doctor's office, even if I was dying. Uh, not even for them to save me. I just would not ever go back there because just the way that they treated me. Um, so I found a new doctor's office and I went to that appointment and she asked me a couple of questions my very first visit there. And she was like, um, oh, well, I think you have PCOS. And I was like, I knew it.
Your light
That's
bulb
what I
went off
knew.
like,
So I was kind of,
yeah.
yeah. So I was kind of excited because I was like, not excited that something was wrong with me, but I was excited because I knew I had an answer this
Mhm,
time.
mhm,
But then I was devastated because something was wrong with me.
mhm.
So I really enjoyed that doctor's office. I stayed there at that doctor's office for a while. Um, my next appointment with them, the doctor that had diagnosed me with PCOS actually was delivering a baby. So her nurse practitioner had to see me that day and absolutely loved her. I kept all of my appointments with her going forward because she was phenomenal. She worked in a fertility clinic out of Atlanta prior to going there. And she had PCOS herself and she struggled with having children. So she had just taken, she just really had a desire to help women that had PCOS and that were trying to have children.
Mhm.
So I stayed with her for a long time. I didn't know it at the time, but she actually was doing a lot of stuff with me that she wasn't even charging me for. So it was really sweet. She was an amazing person. Um, and then that doctor's office closed. So I was devastated again because I was like, oh my gosh, I finally have somebody that's like actually listening to me, actually helping me. Um, we did try during that time before the office closed, we did try like letrozole,
Mhm.
Clomid, those fertility drugs, and they were awful. Still didn't get any pregnancy out of that, but
Did you have
had
side
every
effects?
pregnancy symptom.
No.
Yes, absolutely. And that was like the thing about Clomid and like the any fertility drug is it kind of gives you like all of those symptoms that you would have like um with a pregnancy. Like I was nauseous, my breasts were really tender, I was moody. Just all of those symptoms were there. So it makes you think, okay, this is it. I actually am pregnant this time. So we did try a couple of rounds of that. Um, I found out later that that nurse practitioner went to Harbin Clinic in
Mhm.
Rome.
Mhm.
So I actually followed her there and started seeing her again. She was super sweet, was happy to see me, of course, and continued to try to working with me. But she eventually was like, I think that you really need to see a specialist. Like we've kind of done everything that we can on this end. Um, so you really need to go and try that. And so I was like, fertility clinics are expensive. They costs a lot of money. Insurance doesn't cover anything like that typically. So we were just kind of like, I really don't want to go. I don't want to do that. Let's keep trying. But eventually that was our only option, was to go to a fertility clinic out of Atlanta. So we did go to the one that she actually used to work at in Atlanta. The very first step that you have to do is a semen analysis, because they have to rule out male factor infertility, of course. So if men are a lot like my husband was not for that. That's kind of what took us a little while to get into a fertility clinic, because he just didn't want to do that. He was afraid that he was the problem of us not getting pregnant.
It's funny.
And I just kind of explained to him, like, even if, yes. And then I even explained to him, I was like, well, even if you're part of the problem, we know that I am part of the problem as well, because I have this polycystic ovarian syndrome diagnosis.
It's like putting pieces together and trying to figure out what works best. But then you say, well, I don't want to know. It's better if I just don't know. And you're like, we need to know together.
Yeah. And I think that was my husband's standpoint, was he would rather not know, because he was afraid that it was him. And I guess in his mind, he probably thought that I wanted children so badly that I was going to leave him if it was him, which was not going to happen. But, so we ended up going. He was fine, of course. There was no issue, like male factor infertility issue with us whatsoever. It was just me. So, when we met with that fertility specialist, she said, you know what, you've already done the Clomid, you've already done the letrozole, let's do IUI, which is like artificial insemination. So she had us do that. Our very first round of the IUI, I had to also use the trigger shots, which was really supposed to force my body to release an egg. So my very first IUI, my trigger shot was defective. So it didn't even work whatsoever. I had gone through all the process, taken the medicine that I was supposed to take, did the trigger shot, but the trigger shot didn't work. It was just a defective batch. So of course I was like, wow, of course this would happen to me. So we just continued. We actually did 3 more rounds of IUI. Our last round of IUI was in March of 2020. They had already told us, because of COVID, that the office was actually going to close because of COVID. And so that was going to be our last IUI for a while, if it didn't work because of COVID. So of course, it felt like I felt a lot of pressure with this one has to work. This one has to work, because I knew it was going to be a while before we could do anything else. So we did that last IUI in March of 2022 or of 2020. I was supposed to take a pregnancy test April 1st. It was negative. So devastated again, because I was like, okay, we've done everything that we can possibly do. During the IUI too, we had to do our doctor also had us do Clomid and letrozole together. So 2 fertility drugs together, just to increase our chances, which again makes you feel completely awful because of all the hormones and stuff in it.
So physically and mentally, this journey for the past few years had to be draining you. And
yes.
So that has to be so hard on you.
Oh, absolutely. It was draining, physically, emotionally, mentally. Just, there's a lot of women and couples that are going through this, but it feels very lonely, even though that there's a lot of other people that go through it.
Right.
Because chances are you're probably surrounded with people who have children. Like me, I have been surrounded with friends and family that have children. One time I kind of said that, sorry, I had somebody trying to call me. I had actually one time said that God had quite a sense of humor, because all of my siblings were pregnant at the same time, 1 year, in the middle of all of this. So really difficult, but I absolutely love all of my nieces and nephews. So our journey is difficult. But the thing that I needed to remember, like throughout my journey, is that the people around me shouldn't have to feel like they need to walk on eggshells around me, just because like they have a life too, and they can move on with their life and have children too. I'm not supposed to expect them not to have children. So, and I hope that I never made anyone feel that way, but,
well, you're a very positive person. I don't believe that you have.
Well, thank you. So after that last IUI in 2020, we had a video call with our fertility doctor, and she said, we've kind of done everything that we need to do. I don't think an IUI is going to benefit you, even if the office was open. So our next option was IVF.
Okay.
And so IVF is extremely expensive. It's very invasive, more so than the IUI and the fertility treatments that we've already gone through. IVF is just extremely expensive. And up to this point, my insurance didn't pay for any of our treatments. So like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars had gone into our fertility treatments. And so while we were doing this IUI and stuff, we were already on like a waiting list with DFACS to adopt. We had the waiting list at the time that we like got on that list was probably 2 to 3 years long. So we had already been on a waiting list. So like we felt a lot of pressure of like trying to have a baby, but also there was kind of like in our minds, like a backup plan kind of thing. Not that adoption is a backup plan, but just kind of, it felt like there were other options still.
Yeah.
So after after our doctor told us the IVF, we were just like, it's gonna, like, we thought we were gonna do it for a while. We were like, well, we're gonna do it, but we're gonna have to like save up money, pay off the debt that we've already like kind of accrued from the fertility treatments that we've already done. Because IVF is like upwards in 20,000.
Wow.
And that's for one round. So
anyone who just has that in their back
round doesn't work. Yeah. So, very expensive, but we were going to do it. We just needed to take a break and time to kind of save up the money to do that, because that's a pretty hefty amount to just kind of jump right into it. So we were going to wait and just kind of save up. And then we finally got to the point where they called us to start our process for opening our home as a foster adopt home. So we were pretty busy doing that. That whole process of opening our home took about 9 months. We had to do like classes, all of our background checks and home walkthroughs and evaluations and things like that. So we did all of that. And then we got a phone call in November of 2021 saying that we were matched with a little boy that was 4 months old at the time. So super excited. We were really, really hoping that we would get him for Thanksgiving. We didn't get him for Thanksgiving. So we knew about him all this time from November of 2021 until we got placement of him in January of 2022. So we were hoping that we would have Thanksgiving with him, but we didn't get Thanksgiving. We were hoping we'd have Christmas, but we didn't get Christmas. But we finally got him in January. So, and the reason that it took so long for us, because it was because we had to have a waiver from the state office of Georgia to actually have him placed with us, because I work at DFACS. I'm not supposed to foster children because I work at DFACS. It could be like a conflict. Right. And so I had to get like special permission and a waiver from the state office of Georgia to get placement of him, because he wasn't legally free yet. Mm-hmm. And that just means that his parents, like his biological parents' rights have not been terminated. They still had rights to him. So if you think about it, like, if you had a child in foster care and that they're placed with a DFACS worker, they're going to probably make complaints. And think that we're just sabotaging, which was not the case. But so we're not really supposed to foster at all. But our plan was just adoption. And he was a legal risk adoption just because he wasn't legally free yet at the time that we were matched with him. So we got him a placement of him in January of 2022. And then we finalized our adoption in November of 2022.
Oh, it's so exciting. It's so exciting.
Yes.
It's official, and you have been able to be a mother, and that is just beautiful to watch from the outside. I know being there, you have to be over.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It makes me so happy. God had big plans for you guys, and I just love seeing that.
He definitely did. Yeah, he definitely did, because just thinking back about all of like the things that we had been through that got us kind of here. I wanted to work at DFAX at one time. But when I actually got to working at DFAX, I wasn't planning to work at DFAX. I was actually planning to I went and got my master's degree in social work, and I planned to go work in hospice. I had done an internship with hospice. I loved it. That's why I furthered my education to get a master's degree. And then I landed at DFAX in foster care nonetheless. So I watched like all these foster children and how much I loved them being on my caseload, and then watching them be like loved entirely and completely by the foster parents. It just made like opened my eyes and my heart to adoption. It wasn't really something that we had planned initially. Like people would tell us, why don't you just adopt? And it would make me upset because I was like, well, you didn't adopt. Like, why are you telling me to adopt? So it used to make me upset, but so it was just kind of like weird how it all worked out, and just absolutely God's plan to put me here at DFAX and open my heart to adoption. So but yeah, I mean, now we actually do not plan to do IVF at all. We are over the moon happy as can be with our little one. So like, I mean, we don't feel the need to, if we never have like children biologically, we're okay with that, just because he is everything and more than we ever wanted. So
that is
yeah, absolutely. So he's got the biggest personality I think I've ever seen. But he is absolutely everything that we ever wanted. So I don't feel like I've missed out on anything as far as being a mother. I've never given birth, of course, but I don't feel like I've missed anything. We did get him pretty young, so I don't feel like I've been like robbed of anything at this point to being a mother. So I used to feel that way, though. I used to feel before we got him, I used to feel like really robbed of the opportunity to be a mom. Like I knew that I was supposed to be a mom. Like I had always had this desire to be a mom. And I just kind of felt like robbed for a long time. Like I didn't understand. It had been so long. Like at the point of us getting him, like we had been trying to have a baby for over 9 years. So it had been a long journey, but it absolutely worked out in the end for us with our little one. So
I love that. I love how it's not a traditional story, and it's something that you see God's hand in every single step of the way. And I love hearing your story. I was very excited to be able to talk to you today, because I knew how much love was in both of your hearts for your son, and that's all that matters. And I think that's just a beautiful story. I was so excited to hear it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, like, I think that some people, like, especially people that are going through infertility, like, that seems to be the response from everybody was, why don't you just adopt, And if you're not ready to adopt right then that's okay. I mean, it took us a long time to get to that point too, but I don't feel any different. I don't feel like I'm a mom, like any less of a mother because I adopted. So
and I love for you to be able to talk about your infertility journey, because I know that's hard for a lot of women to discuss, and they get upset because a lot of people, a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube is based on birth and how everything went perfectly. And that's not always everyone's story.
Yeah.
And I love being able to hear everyone's journey because you're in it too, just like we are. And I love that. I absolutely love that you're so open about your journey, so that if there's a mom who's listening or a woman who's listening who's struggling to have their second or their first, they can hear your story and they can say, I see God's hand in it and I'm okay. And that's what I really want, is for someone to be able to have that comfort. And I want to thank you so much for being so open to discuss it with us today.
Oh, no problem. Absolutely. And I actually I thought that I was going to be a fertile myrtle, so it was just completely unexpected for me. um, but like just how that again shows how God had his hand in it, because like all of the women in my family, like they have 4 or 5 children, and they all started when they were like 20. So I used to walk around thinking like my husband couldn't even look at me because I'd get pregnant. And that just did not happen for me. It was not like that at all. So it was a struggle, and there were days that were really hard for me. Like there were times that I couldn't go through like the baby section at Walmart. There were a lot of baby showers that I just didn't go to because I couldn't. And it's okay not to. It's okay to avoid the baby showers. It's okay to avoid the baby section. It's okay to prepare nurseries too. I had done that too. Like one time, just for my own like mental health, I just, I made nurseries in my house. Like I painted 2 bedrooms, and just to get ready, because I was like, I know this is going to happen for me. And there were days that I felt like this is not going to happen for me. And I would get upset, but it did. And I knew that it was going to. I was just beating myself up and having a little bit of a pity party because I couldn't understand
that. You're allowed to do that.
Absolutely. You're allowed to do that. And you're allowed to buy baby things, and then you're allowed to destroy them when you're mad. That happened. It's happened to me. So, but in the end, it just worked out the way that God meant it to. And I don't feel like, I feel very strongly that this was God's plan for me and my husband and my family.
Well, that's beautiful. I thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful week and hug the baby.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a really good day. Okay.
Thank you. You too.